Hello, everyone. This is Toni Weel from Florida. We have again Thad Cheatham from Alabama, and we have Sarah from Virtuous Unicorns in Ohio. And it's a beautiful day here, enjoying life. But today we're going to talk about joint pain. And oh my gosh, do I know about joints from the back to the knees to hips, broken bones, and what all happened, all the things that I took in supplements, not pharmaceuticals. Although the supplements these days are getting close to the pharmaceuticals. And I was just talking with that about a few ones that are always suggested in when you have joint pain, if your knees are bothering you or if your hips are bothering you when you get older, but there are other ways. And you're probably not gonna like what I say, but we are always getting back to the same thing with whatever symptoms that we have is of course the diet, but we talk about that later. Um, I sent that a few things about the things that are being prescribed and not even or prescribed actually, actually prescribed even by holistic doctors. And I used them. I have to admit, way before I met Dr. Morse and knew better, of course I used them because that was type in joint pain in Google. Those are the first things that come up. And you think they help, and I expected them to help, but they didn't. They didn't. For me, they didn't change anything. So it was just deal with the pain. I was not getting, I needed one surgery for a broken femur that had to replace half the hip. And but as in with knees, because of arthritis, it's like, I'm not going to be the what do they call that these days? The bionic woman. So that you have some experiences with people, what they're asking for in your parents' store, well, what is it, health food or health store?
Yeah, yes. It's called a health food store, but we aren't able to sell a lot of food because, we just couldn't get enough people to come in there. We tried to have organic produce and all kind of stuff, because we have the space. But anyways, yeah, we have a lot of different products that we have at my parents' health food store to help with those things, but they work more just like a band-aid in a way, and it's really just a something that people use like a tool again, like we use the herbs and stuff, that's what, standard people that are following a standard lifestyle because they maybe don't know about our lifestyle and know about these things, or they may consider that a little bit too extreme or too much, for them and where they're at and in their life, and so they'll use these products and stuff. But I love to have the opportunity to talk about this subject with people to because it always goes back to cause and effect, and it's how we live our lifestyle. Because your muscles, I mean your joints and is a part of your skeletal system. And your skeletal system is so reliant on the elements that we get from our electrolytes, calcium, for your bones, magnesium, and potassium, and then of course vitamin D, getting enough sun, because so many people we don't bathe in the sun, we may get a little bit of sun exposure, but when I mean get enough sun, I mean you need to bathe in the sun, and let preferably naked if you have a private area where you can do that, because you need to let all the areas of your body get exposed with sunlight. There's even lots of research that shows that when you sun your privates, even it really helps your hormones and helps your body. And a lot of people, when I talk to them about that, they just start laughing and they think, "Oh, that's crazy," and and all that. And it's just because we're never taught how to do these things, and then people wonder why they have such low levels levels of vitamin D and such low levels of these minerals and these things that are needed for the body. And the body, it really leaches a lot of calcium from the joints and the bones to neutralize the acidity in the body. According to Dr. Morse, and a lot of your information out there in the world, is the body uses calcium and it uses cholesterol to neutralize the acid that builds up in our bodies. And see, your joints, not only do they have a response from the acids from the foods that we eat, from the stress that we have, from the fear that we have, from the sometimes the water and just all these different things that are acidic, but also from the lactic acid that's built up from activity. And then when those acids start to build up to a point, you start to develop too uric acid. And uric acid is what really affects the joints, and it can cause the crystallization, like when you have gout. And that's like a sand spur being stuck in your joint. And then every movement and every twist and turn you make, it's like little knives or needles piercing you, even if you, because a lot of people get it in their big joint of their big toe. And if they even bump that joint on something, it hurts real bad, and it's because of the lifestyle that they're living and the things that they're consuming. And I find it very ironic is that one of the things we have at my parents' health food store that is a natural product that helps people with arthritises of all kinds, and their joints, and also gout, especially too, is black cherry juice. And it's just concentrated cherry juice. It's nothing else added. And it's either tart cherry or black cherry. And I find it very ironic. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, I find it very ironic that when people are in desperate pain, they'll consume their fruits then because they're like, I'll do anything. That's like what me and Toni were talking about is when you have bad chronic pain, you're desperate to try anything, because you're suffering, you don't want to keep suffering. My my father's battled with pain a lot too, and there's many times he's like, well, Thad, I've had pain so much in my life that I've gotten used to it. It's just something that's normal, and people, they start to like joke about it, that that's just part of normal life. I mean, I remember my grandmother when she was older, she would joke about, she said, well, I don't have real men come see me more, but I have these other men to come see me, like arthritis and brucitis. And she would just joke, make jokes about it, like people do. And it's just really sad, and I explain to people, if you look at the history of people's behavior, you can see why these conditions come about. Is that, yes, too much activity at certain times, not enough stretching, too much just hard work for people, but also a degradation of their bones because of the acidosis and the leaching of the calcium again. But it has a lot to do with too what they drink, because there's so much acidity in so many of the drinks that people drink, alcohol, sodas, even beer, which is still alcohol, but the beer being fermented, it was bad too for joints and things. And then fried foods are really bad. And then, anything greasy like that because it's so rancid, and then the processed foods, even refined sugars, again, too, because they're acidic and the way they create more fermentation in the body. There's so many of those, what they call rich foods, the processed meats and the packaged meats and the gravies and the oils and just, they call them the rich foods, and those are what the foods that cause gout to be so bad. And we have people come in there all the time, and us living here in the South, we have so much, the barbecue and the bacon and the fried foods and all those things. And that's what a lot of these, especially men, that come in the store, and they'll be hurting so bad they can't even walk when they come in the door, and I take the opportunity to try to explain it to them that, a lot of what they're suffering through is from the lifestyle that they're living, as well as, what's, going on, with their eating habits and everything, and some of them, they'll listen, they'll try different things, and we have different products, of course, that people use, but yes, we don't sell it a whole lot, but we sell the conglosamine and the chondroitin and the MSM, and all of those things are just, they're a band-aid that leaves behind lots of residue in the body, and that's one of the things that Dr. Morse has talked about so much, about leaving behind lots of sulfur in the body. And that's what one of the causes of reason why we see the sulfur in the eyes in iridology, but also the antibiotics and the steroids and, birth control and even asthma medication. There's so many medications as well as supplements that leave behind lots of sulfur in the body, and we can see that. And then it's really hard to get that buildup of sulfur to come out, for lots of people. It takes lots of work, lots of hard work. And it creates more of a overgrowth of candida and bacterias and waste, trying to clean up that sulfur too, And
Yeah.
but go ahead, Tony. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, the thing is that people are using it for years, and when they stop, some people have some benefit from it. I never did, but when they stop, the problem is as it was before, so it's not healing anything.
Yeah.
And when you look at what it is made of, it's unbelievable that we even want to put that in our bodies.
That's right. I mean, I remember Dr. Morris saying a very interesting story that I'll share with everyone. It's not real long, so that it won't take up too much of our time of talking. But he told a story of a lady that come to see him. She'd been taking, I think, those supplements for at least 10 years or longer. And she told him, she said, "Yeah, the doctor told me that this will help rebuild the cartilage in my knee." And he asked her, he said, "Well, if it hasn't already rebuilt it by now, then what makes you think that it will rebuild it?" Because, but he said that she also told him, she said, "Well, I can't stop taking it because every time I stop taking it, it stops working." And he's like, "Well, that should show you though that it's not really doing what they say it's doing. It's just acting like a placebo or acting like a suppressant. It's just like a mask. It's like a temporary illusion that it's helping when really it's causing more problems in the future because of the pollution that it's leaving behind in the body. But again, these people don't know any different. They're just trusting the doctors. They're just, but we don't sell conglosamine, chondroitin, and MSM as much as we do the other products in the store, because people are finding that they get even more relief from the herbs, and they get more relief from like the cherry juice, and they get more relief from like especially the herbs like curcumin, which comes from turmeric, and boswellia, and bromelain, the top herbs that help with inflammation and pain. We sell more of that than we do anything, but we also sell a wonderful salve, a topical salve that people can use that has essential oils in it, and it has menthol crystals, and it can help numb the area.
It's interesting. I have an joint support tea, an organic tea. I'll tell you what the ingredients are. It is organic. Well, it's all organic. Devil's claw root, burdock root, dandelion, licorice root, turmeric root, cinnamon, orange peel, and peppermint. And this is sold as it's actually from Star West Botanicals. It's sold as a joint support.
Yeah, that's a good formula. It is. Yeah, devil's claw is definitely one of the top herbs too. I just forgot it at the moment. And yeah, there's Star West makes some wonderful stuff. We have almost a whole entire row in our store that's of Star West bulk botanical products, and I really like their products because they don't have any of the additives or the fillers or the flow agents, they call it, when you get things in capsules sometimes, because in order for the company to capsulate up that herb, sometimes they have to put like magnesium stearate and just different things in there to help the herbs to flow through the machinery. And you don't really want that. You want when you buy, or at least this is my way of thinking, when you buy an herb, you want just that herb. You don't want all those other additives, but that's just sometimes what they have to do, like I said, to get it to work in their machines. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same when you see when you have these capsules, and there's always a lot of stuff added to it. Probiotics, what is it? Probiotics, prebiotics,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
enzymes, and it's like, no, I just want the herbs.
Yeah,
I
no,
am working on starting a little tea company with, very specific teas like this one.
yeah,
So
that's awesome. That's a great idea, because, yeah, I think teas are a great thing because not only can you get the benefits of drinking it, but you can get the benefits of breathing the steam, from the tea, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I love my teas. I drink three different ones daily. Of course, Dr. Morse's Heal All tea, the tree lung tea, and I like lemon balm in the evening.
Yeah, yeah, we sell a lot of tea. We have a whole entire row of our stores, not but different teas.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So we now know that all these supplements that we take, it's the same. We can call it supplement, but they are pharmaceuticals. I mean, they are made in a lab. They are what Dr. Moore said. They're foreign to the body even. And like what you mentioned with the lady who took it for 10 years, with she was a Dr. Morse patient, I think. And I have taken it for a few years, and I didn't have an effect. Now, this same stuff is also very heavily used with pets, cats, dogs who get, the itis problems, the inflammation, and it's still not healing. And that is what I can be pretty upset about, is that we are told it is healing. Even doctors do that. And it's not. And there is another thing that I want to touch on, which is the use of calcium. And I hated milk with a passion. So when I was 12 years old, they could no longer make me drink milk. And I did eat cheese, so I still got the dairy products, which was not helping my health. But when I was in my probably late teens, early 20s, I started using calcium because I was told by doctors I had to take that because I wasn't drinking milk. So you believe that. And I have taken calcium and calcium magnesium, the variety of it, because there are different ones. And the only difference that it made is that I easily broke the strongest bone in my body with only twisting my leg. And can you touch on that? What it actually does to your body? Because it is, you still see it. Milk, and even enriched with calcium, or
Uh,
and enriched with vitamin D. What was it? Vitamin D, I believe too. But the calcium, and they have, it's like how much calcium it is, and you need that for your health. And yeah,
Yeah, I can definitely touch on it because I've seen a lot of things that I've read over the years that have talked about it. And I've even read a lot about how calcium supplements can be really bad and really create lots of imbalance in our body because that's one of your electrolytes again. And it's kind of like your calcium, your magnesium, and your potassium, and your vitamin D, they're kind of like the big four, where they have to be in the right forms because if you don't, they cause imbalances. And the reason why it's such an important thing that we need to talk about to clarify with people is that we do have lots of people that come and get magnesium because magnesium is one of the biggest deficient minerals that people have on the standard diets. But see, what people need to understand is that your body needs the form of those elements is what we get from plants. Preferably the fresh, living, ripe, organic if possible form of those elements, because that's the form of element that's still alive. It's living, it's what your body needs. Now, if you do get it from a dried, powdered herb, and you get it that way too from like a green food or from like some of our herbs, that's the beauty of herbs again too. We're not just taking it for the medicinal benefits, for what it does for different conditions and different organs of the body and glands, but we're also taking it because it's loaded full of nutrition and loaded full of very vital elements that help us. That's why I love herbs so much. I tell people all the time, zinc is very important too. And most of your fruits and vegetables and things we eat, they don't have lots of zinc, but there is an herb though called Foti or Hoshu, that has been shown to help repair cellular damage or DNA damage. And it's because it has high levels of zinc. It has like 45 milligrams of zinc per dosage versus, we only get like 5 to 7 or maybe 10 at the most with some of your fruits and vegetables. And I'm not sure about with the green foods. I'd have to look it up again. But I know the green foods like moringa and alfalfa, they have lots of those minerals and stuff too. But so that's what I mean by when you think of getting your calcium that's very important. Think of getting it from the grains and from the fruits, the vegetables and the fruits and the herbs, because that's the form your body needs, and that's what you want to go for, not the kind you get from the supplements and the herbs, because there's been shown evidence that when you consume calcium supplements, it actually is an inorganic mineral, just like what you get from the minerals from water or from even salt. And then that builds up in the body and can create kidney stones. And it's that on top of your body leaching calcium from your bones to neutralize the acidity in the body as well. So that builds up kidney stones in the body, because those are inorganic minerals. But those inorganic minerals also start to accumulate in the GI tract, and they get stuck to the mucoid. I mean the trash that's in the GI tract, the layers of the intestines, and then it can create a mucoid plaque over time. And that's one of the things that starts to harden that residue. And that's what Dr. Morse, I think he mentioned that in his book too, about how the inorganic minerals, they get attached to that residue that builds up in the GI tract, and then it makes it, turn, or one of the things that contributes to it turning to mucoid plaque, which makes sense. It kind of like makes it kind of harder, I guess. But yeah, so that's kind of what I've learned over the years in our store. And that's why we don't really see as many people coming in and getting calcium as they used to. We do still have some people, but we sell way more magnesium than we do anything. And we sell a little bit of potassium, but I try to tell every time people ask me what I prefer and what I like, I always send them to the plants, because I say, why would you want to not only invest your money into something that's just going to pollute your body and give you like a pseudo effect? It may help you in some small ways, but it's really just, again, like the supplements are designed, is they give you just a temporary illusion of helping when it's really can cause more problems in the future because of the pollution that it creates. That's why we have to talk about with people all the time in our communities about how you don't want to do isolated chemistry, because it's designed, just look at that word, isolation. You don't want to take something that's separated away from that perfect package that God created with our foods. That's why He created us to consume something that has all those elements in it in the right ratios of what we need. And that's why it's very important for people to understand that, everything you need, try to get it from your plants. If you ever have to take those elements outside of that, just try to make sure it's, a temporary part of your life's journey, only because, you don't feel like you have any other options, or you didn't know any better or something, because I mean, I definitely think those supplements are better than taking medications, there's definitely levels to it, but I agree with what Tony said, is that there still could be considered a pharmaceutical product because of, like she said, it's made in a laboratory, because most of the supplements are made in a laboratory too, because they have to have a sterile environment to put that together, so it's very similar. It's just not a, I wouldn't go as far as to call it a chemical man-made concoction. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they get those elements from like some of the rough minerals of the earth. That's where I think the last time I read that they get all the different forms of magnesium and the different forms of calcium, and so even one last thing I'll mention in this part of the conversation, and then I'll let y'all talk again, is even Epsom salts. Epsom salts is magnesium sulfate or magnesium brine. No, it's magnesium sulfate. That's right. Magnesium brine is the magnesium flakes we have at the store too. That's popular as well. People use that after they've been to the gym, or they go do exercise, or they go dancing. We have it in spray. They'll spray it on their joints, or they'll even rub it their legs down at nighttime to help them with restless legs. And that's, restless legs is just a symptom of electrolyte imbalance and mineral imbalance in the body. And also malabsorption, because if you're not absorbing your minerals properly too, you can be deficient in those minerals. So there's a lot of those things that are connected. But yeah, those those forms of minerals, it's important, for us to understand, how to help the body to have the best form, and then clean up the intestines and clean up the body so we can absorb those minerals properly. And then we can see how all of that, plays an important part, in helping our joints and our muscles and our bones, and then be patient with your bones. I've heard many people say over the years that your bones are the slowest to regenerate, the slowest to come back. That it can take even, I think, a year for the bones to come back, from degeneration. And a lot of it has to do too with they're trying to help neutralize so much of that acidosis in the body. And I think they're also trying to help the blood, or help protect the blood from getting over acidic. Yeah, but that some of that stuff I'm not 100% certain on. I'm just using my logic. Of course, those are moments I would have to refer to Patty, because I still need to be I still need to further my education on anatomy and physiology, because it's such a fascinating subject, and I would still love to take her courses sometime. I just haven't had the money to invest in her courses yet. Yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Tony.
her
Yeah, go
courses
ahead.
are pretty intense.
I imagine, because she
Yeah,
has a lot
I
of
just
great knowledge. Yeah.
yeah. When you were talking about magnesium, and I know a lot of people take magnesium for a variety of symptoms, but the interesting thing is, and this is actually in Dr. Morse's book on page 81, the food sources of magnesium is all fruits and vegetables, especially dark leafy greens, seaweeds, nuts, seeds, dried fruits, potatoes, which we don't want to eat, sesame seeds, alfalfa, figs, brown rice. No, we don't want to eat that either. Kelp, pineapple, honey, celery, whole grain products, almonds, avocados, bananas, apples, peaches, lima beans, black-eyed peas, wheat germ, and brown rice. We had brown rice in there twice. Okay. But so in the fruit, all the foods that we can eat and still detox and still heal. I don't like much the word detox, because, when we start on a different diet, what we are actually do is give the body a chance to heal. And yes, and get the junk out. So in that perspective, it is detoxing. But if you see in how much magnesium can be in all these foods, and when you look at the bananas, the apples, the peaches, what else was it? Dried fruits, alfalfa, the figs, the pineapple, even honey, although that is not one of my favorites. So we have an opportunity to take in enough magnesium for our body to help balance everything out. So it's that is one thing I do want to suggest everyone who is listening, and I really hope you already have that book, is the Detox Miracle Source book by Dr. Morse. And it's a must-have if you when you are on your path of yeah, bettering your health, of healing. It's there is so much information in there. It's unbelievable. I forgot to look at how many pages it actually is, but it is 370 pages. And you pretty much find all the information that you need in there. And other than that, Dr. Morris has, well, it's now almost daily or every other day new videos on morses.tv. And he now has a search function there. And then you get, if you would type in, and I was actually interested, okay, what does he say about joints and joint health? Well, he has a lot to say about it because I typed it in and I got a huge list of the videos and even the text where he mentioned it. So Marco and whoever works with him did an absolutely great job on this new feature. So we don't need raw fix anymore because actually this is even better. So the functions are there. So if you need to look something up, that's a great addition to Morses.tv where all the videos are. And I actually had somebody asking about specific C19 videos that we know we cannot put them in the groups because it would, well, Facebook could take the group down even still talking about this, but you will find them in a section on morses.tv. So, in other videos too, where he talks about things that we cannot put on YouTube or on Facebook even. So it is an absolutely amazing resource, and I suggest everyone, check it out to get that information. Sarah, please, if you have to add anything, please do so.
Well, can you tell me what that site was again you were just talking about, and I'll post it in the chat.
It is Morses, MORSES.TV.
Oh, well, no, yeah, okay, I know that one. I thought you said there was one that went with it that
No,
replaced.
yeah,
Okay,
this is the site, and on the site right now you have there are two search functions, and but you'll see it when you get there.
okay, good.
Which one to use to find all the videos, and they have uploaded a lot of videos already. So
Oh, great, great. Well, back in the beginning when we were talking about like vitamin D absorption and things like that, I did put in the chat too that allowing the sun to dry your hair for you, that's a good way to absorb. A lot of people don't know the importance of our hair and the reason why we do have it. And I've even actually been reading about like not cutting our hair because our hair is one of the ways that we will absorb things. It's kind of like, I guess, our antennas. But that's a great way. And of course, like Dad was talking about, exposing as much of your skin to the sun as possible. I've always had a really good rule of I like morning sun, kind of like from 9 to maybe 11 where I live, 11:30 in the morning. And then I don't like being out in the complete heat of the day. But for me, when I remember as a kid, the heat of the day was like around noon to I don't know, like 2. But now it seems like the heat of the day comes around like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But yeah, daily sun exposure is very important. And yeah, and your damp hair, that does help to absorb it too. But when you were saying that, they had too about like especially when you do it in the nude, that we should be out there with our wet hair, hugging trees, and laying outside on the ground, grounding ourselves at the same exact time. And I know that that is funny to most people because can you just imagine like sitting in your home and you'd look out and there's your neighbor outside doing all that? I mean, they'd go to jail in today's time and age, but that's just what we're supposed to do. But it's such a um you're not supposed to do it. So I guess maybe in your swimsuit, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely good, especially if you're in a private area where you can do that. We did actually have a question too in the chat. I don't know if you want me to read that off or
Yeah, go ahead.
okay. I really apologize, but I'm not going to try to say the name. But so, do you know any cases of healing things like constant tingling and fatigue in one leg? Structural physical issues. My left leg gets very tired and tense in normal activities and fatigued. It seems related to nerves, standing, or a lot of time walking, a lot, etc. I had a scanner to see if it was disc hernia and it wasn't. Do you see healing of things like that? What could it be? A naturopath saw that I had a leg longer than the other one. What do you see in these cases? Um, so like I missed the part where we talked about the disc degeneration, but yeah. So have you seen? And it's been okay. Go ahead. That was Grant saying something
Yeah,
too.
and he was 3 years on only fruits and herbs and zero improvement. Um, yeah, I had, and my daughter had that too. I was diagnosed in my early 20s that one leg was longer than the other. So they made me wear shoes with an insert so it would even out. Well, I tried that for a few months, got tired of it, threw it out, and never bothered with it again. And I figured maybe my back issues came from that. So that is when I started to research, or go to a doctor and a chiropractor to see what it was. And they talked about that disc issue. And I gave that up after a while too because it was never improving. And I haven't bothered with it. What you mentioned with the tingling and the fatigue in one leg, I would actually think about a pinched nerve, before I would think about anything with bones. And maybe this is where a chiropractor can help you. It is not that you can take anything for it, it's the body doesn't really work that way, other than, the appropriate herbs, which it seems that you have been doing. But yeah, I would need to know more about exactly what you have been eating and exactly what herbs you have been taking. What is your take on this, that?
Yes, I agree. I'd have to know more about the individual's case, but I would also explain to them that if they have had that condition for the majority of their life, or even since they were, a young child, then it's gonna take longer than 3 years, and you have to have patience with it because, it can be something that, again, like we talked about earlier, it can be very frustrating to people because they feel like, they want something, quicker, because they're in so much pain and discomfort, and sometimes you just have to have some patience with your body because, like I was mentioning earlier, it can take a good while to see bones regenerate, in some of your cases, depending on the individual, so you have to just be patient through the process, and you have to just really get the body really alkaline to help the body to reverse the loss of calcium from the bones, and help the body to get those good sources of elements, to come back into the body, so the body can start to replenish those areas, or start to give those areas the needed elements that it needs, But again, it goes back to how bad is the person malabsorbed, because see, your standard, fruits and vegetables, sometimes they don't have very high amounts of those elements. And so that's why sometimes we have to again go to the superfoods, like, super green foods like moringa and alfalfa, that are so much more higher concentrated in those elements, because even if you have malabsorption, the likelihood of you absorbing more of those elements is higher because there's higher concentrations of those elements, per serving, per dosage. Because, some of our fruits and vegetables, again, you don't get as much of those elements if they weren't grown properly, if they weren't ripened properly before you ate them. Like I know from a banana, for example, a banana, the more you let it ripen up, the more potassium that develops, in the banana. It's kind of like my understanding from reading about it is the starches in the banana, when it's green, it will start to transform into more potassium as the sugars start to develop more, because the banana will turn sweeter, so that's my perfect or my example of how we have to remember it goes back to the quality of the food that we're getting. Because sometimes we have people that say this, but we have to say, well, what quality of fruits were you getting? What type of fruits were you getting? How often were you eating the fruits? We have to look at so many different factors, but then also we have to remember that stress, anxiety, worry, fear, traumas from our past, if we can't quit thinking about those things on a daily basis, then that's really hard on the bones too, because that's, those stresses are very, acidic to the body, and so if you're not helping to relieve some of the big causes of that acidity in your body, then your body's not going to be able to have as much healing or recovery as you could have, and so that comes back to what makes it so challenging for people is that they're wanting something to help their physical body so much, but they don't realize how can your physical body recover if your spirit is not happy in the physical body? If your spiritual and mental and emotional parts of who you are, because that's so much more of a bigger area or bigger part of who you are than just your body, because your body's just your vehicle or your spacesuit to enjoy this ride, and to enjoy this experience, and so sometimes it's hard to explain that to people because when you have traumas and hardships sometimes in life, you try to just run away from it instead of trying to face it and just try to accept that that's an important part of life that we all need to go through, because that really helps to refine us and to improve, if we're brave enough and strong enough to go through that experience and come out on the other side, because it's a refinement process. It helps you to learn and grow and develop as a human from those experiences. You just have to be able to see it as a beneficial thing and not think that, oh, I'm being punished or why me or and you just spend your life trying to avoid it or play the victim or run away from it, but again, it goes back to how was that individual raised, what kind of situations happened when they were younger. Just there's so many technical things that it depends on individuals' circumstances, because that's what I see from a lot of these more challenging cases for people is that you have to really get down to the very bare bottom bones of what's going on with that individual before you can really understand why they're having the experiences that they're having. That's kind of
Mm-hmm.
my look at it. But yeah, y'all go ahead and chime in again too.
Well,
Yeah,
I was going to say too, real quick, Toni, that they said that they've been just really paying attention to the diet so much that they're not doing, they're asking if they should be doing the exercise, deep tissue massage, yoga, that kind of stuff. And keep in mind, like, it's the whole healing is holistically, like what Thad was just talking about, what Toni talked about prior to that. Like, you have to bring it all in together. It is truly body, mind, and spirit. You have to approach everything holistically. I still have like tingling, numbness, and stuff like that go down my arms, and sometimes do go down my legs. But it's because of my job, and I will sit for long periods of time typing. But then I'm also out working, like at the farm or with the horse or something like that. I still get like deep tissue massage, and a lot of my stuff comes from the tension that I'll carry in my shoulder, and it causes numbness and tingling. And this has been going on for years, but it's I don't do yoga, I don't do stretching every single day. I mainly just rely on all of my physical activity that I do, but I do need to spend more time doing the stretching and strengthening of probably that certain area. So I think you should treat it holistically.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And for I let Toni chime in, I just wanted to respond to something you said, Sarah, is yes, I agree. The movements and the exercise can be important. Just don't overdo it because that will create more lactic acid. Like if you're doing too much and you're becoming sore, or you're doing too much and you're becoming fatigued and tired, then that's going to be hard for the muscles and the tendons and the bones to be able to recover, because of that activity. And that's what makes it so challenging for some people to be able to recover from these things, is because they do have responsibilities and things where they still have to, work their job or do certain things that creates more movement. And that's why it's hard for people to rest enough, because remember, the body heals when in rest. The body builds muscle and repairs tendon and bones when in rest. So yes, enough sleep is important and vital, but also enough relaxation and rest, because you don't need as much movement when the body's trying to repair. But it is important to help the lymphatic system to move, and to help to relieve some of the buildup of the acidosis and the crystals in sometimes our joints and our tendons, by doing movements that we're not used to doing. That's why I think the stretching and the yoga is important, because some of the positions that you can practice are different exercises, or different movements, or different stretching in ways that you don't do in your normal day-to-day activities. And see, you were saying, Sarah, I try to rely on my day-to-day activities. Well, if you're stretching in certain ways during your day-to-day activities, you may not have to practice those stretches as much when you're doing the yoga or the stretching, but try to do more of the stretches that you're not doing those movements or those exercises, during the day, like moving your head in certain directions, moving your shoulders in certain direction. Because like if you were saying you have that shoulder pain between your shoulder blades, like fibromyalgia symptoms, which is just coming from acidosis, but a lot of it's coming from stress, anxiety, and worry. And because that's where a lot of, especially women more than even men, you hold your tension there, and also it's from the drainage of the head, the lymphatic fluids of the head going down from the head and down the spinal cord between the shoulder blades. But also I see a lot in iridology that people can have scapula, or that's another name for shoulder blades. They can have weaknesses in there from even genetic, even from connected to the colon and the bowels in certain ways. It's kind of like the same thing as the neck and the shoulders. They're kind of, I see that a lot in iridology. They'll have what we called a neural arch weakness, where it's connected to the colon and the way they were born. But yeah, so what I would recommend people do is just stretch in ways that you don't normally do in your day-to-day activity, but do it really easily. Don't be too aggressive, because like you were mentioning earlier, is that individual more than likely, I think it was you or either Toni that was talking about, it's more than likely nerve pain that's causing them to feel those main pains in that area. Because what happens too is when the cartilage is not there enough, to give cushion, the bones will rub against bones, and then it'll make it'll start hurting the nerves. And that's what was even happening with my dad. When he was having the degenerative disc disorder, it was causing him to have bad nerve pain, and that nerve pain was running down his arms, and it'd even make his arms, when he'd sleep in certain positions, it would make his arms fall asleep. And that's definitely nerve pain. And why is it that when you have a broken bone or something, the doctor will give you a nerve block? And that's because a lot of the pain that you have is coming from the nerves, and the tendons and those things, even more than sometimes than just the bone pain itself. So that's what I would say to that. But let's let Toni chime in to what you were saying too, Sarah. Go ahead, Toni.
Yeah, it was Mapu. I don't know how to pronounce your name. He said sometimes it's necessary to integrate other things like physical therapeutic approach, so it's possible for the body to heal. And you both already addressed that. And I was even thinking not only yoga, but also what is it, Qigong and Tai Chi even.
Yeah.
And last year we did a podcast or video with Gary, what is it, Gary Parent. And he had some really simple exercises, and I would definitely look into that. You can find it on my channel, and it is called Breath Work. And Gary is showing Can you hear my cats?
Yeah, I heard some in the background, but I didn't know what it was.
I have two cats here in the area, an older lady, and she is 15, 16 now, and a younger one. And he wants to play, and she is not having it.
Yeah,
And
they're
she
interesting
is a
creatures.
screamer. It's my God, Okay, where was I? Gary, with his exercise, and I think halfway into the video, he shows that one exercise. It's just one of the things. It's very, very gentle to the body. In what physical state you are in, you can actually do that one exercise. And yeah, look into that. You mentioned again, like, could you ask exactly what I asked? But I'm not quite sure if didn't we answer your questions? What are we missing?
Yeah, well, in the meantime, while he responds, or she, we're not sure what gender, but I was going to say one thing that we didn't touch on that I wanted to mention is the deep tissue massage. Now, I wouldn't do necessarily deep because sometimes when you get massages and they do too deep or too aggressive, that can be stressful.
Yeah, it can actually cause other issues that you were not expecting, and then they have to heal. So be careful with that.
Yeah, I do get, I go to a very special person that does it. And I can tell you that it's not, people are like, oh, did you enjoy your massage? And I'm like, no. It's like, it takes almost 2 days for it to feel better, but I'll go and do this every few months, just to kind of get in and work that out. But again, that's something I'm not treating holistically. I'm relying on diet, and there's plenty of other ways to do it, but I use it as a crutch at this point until I can figure out how I'm going to kind of handle that. But yeah, I would definitely not go to a random person. I would not go to one of those places in a mall. I would go to a very special person who is trained on doing them, and not like a massage envy or anything like that. Like, go to a private person who is trained in this line of work, and it is something they have to get continual training on too. Like, she follows up on her trainings all the time. So
I'm kind of skeptical and kind of biased on those kind of treatments from the lymphatic massage or I mean the massage therapy industry because so much of the massage therapy industry sometimes they have been trained improperly on how the lymphatic system flows. They think that it flows back into the blood or the venous system. I even remember when I was at
mm-hmm.
class with Dr. Morse in 2018, I actually had a moment to ask him at one of our breaks. I asked him, I said, Dr. Morse, I noticed when I went to your clinic, because I wanted to go down there one day, they weren't there because they'd been at the class. But I wanted to go by there and at least get my photograph in front of his building. And I noticed that, and that was before he's moved now, but that was before, it was in 2018 before the hurricane messed up his place. But he had the whole shopping center except for the very last building, and it was a massage place. And I even asked him, I said, have you had a conversations with her or with him about how the lymphatic system doesn't flow into the blood and all that? And he just made it like a chuckle or a laugh, and he was like, "Yeah, I've talked to her before, but she's still, I forgot exactly what he replied back, but my memories tells me that he said something along the lines of like, we talked, but she follows her methods that she follows, um, but uh." But I was saying though, you have to be careful, and I really am skeptical about the deep tissue stuff because of the story that I heard from Marcy one time that was talking with Dr. Morris in a video, and my understanding of the lymphatic system is kind of tender because of those acids flowing through it from the waist, but also because it's close to the surface of the skin. And how Marcy was telling the story of how she said she went to go see a massage therapist, and I guess he knew different techniques. and he knew how to do it deep as well as just regular. And she told him, she said, I want a massage to loosen me up, but don't mess with my leg too much because I'm having a problem with my leg, and one of my channels of my lymph channels are inflamed a little bit, and it's real sore and stuff. And she said, I don't really want you to mess with that. Just do, my back and the rest of these other areas. And he didn't listen to her. He said, "Well, oh, I can help it. I just need to do a deep massage to it." And she said he started doing it, and she told him not to. And she said it started hurting so bad she tried to pull up off the table and say, "Hey, wait a sec! I told you not to do that." And she said, "Well, the damage had already been done from just that little bit that he tried to do." She said for the next week or so, it was raised up, that whole channel that was partially inflamed before, but now it was raised up like almost a half an inch. It looked just like a swollen vessel, like a blood vessel, but it wasn't a blood vessel. It was a lymph vessel in her body. And she said it took her at least a week for that to go down, after that happened, and so they were both talking in the video about how, you have to do these things the right way. You can't be too over aggressive with people in certain situations because, sometimes their muscles and their tendons and their systems of their body are going through some, inflammation or some movement of acids through those areas. And acids are kind of like, sometimes they crystallize, like we talked about before with the uric acid crystals in the joints. And you don't want to be too aggressive on those areas because those the crystals of acids are going to penetrate and jab into the different tissues, and that's what's causing the pain. It's not only the trauma of the actual crystals like needles penetrating into the tissue, but it's also the acids, like burning, like putting acid on your hand, like from a battery, it burns, so that's what I mean by we have to understand what the individual is going through. We have to really be very knowledgeable about their case and what their symptoms are. And we have to know enough about the individual. We can't just get in there and say, "Oh, I don't know very much about you," and just start, twisting you and turning you and massaging you in all different ways, So I'm not trying to say, Sarah, that, your person you're going to is not educated properly and don't know what they're doing and stuff. I'm just trying to put a warning out there to people to say, be cautious when you do those things, because sometimes,
100%.
it could mean worse for some people in some cases. That's all I do when I talk to people. But at the same time, the reason why we're even talking about it is, yes, they can be really beneficial to some people too, and it can actually help that pain and inflammation and swelling to go down some if done in the proper way, especially if their eliminative channels are emptying, especially their kidneys and their bowels, and their skin is eliminating the acid and the waste, so that all of that body work that you're having done doesn't just create more edema or swelling. Because this is last little story I wanted to mention in this conversation right now is I had another lady when I went to a retreat in 2019. She was one of the ladies that was there at the retreat with us. She had been getting a lot of body work there in Bali where we were at. And because, the Balinese ladies and people, they have lots of those places because, it's a really touristy place. And she had gotten a lot of that done. And then she started talking about, well, Thad, man, I've been having some edema and some swelling lately. And I said, well, that's because of all the body work that you've been doing. Is because they stirred up a lot of that lymphatic waste and acids, and it's moving around through your bodies. I mean, different parts of your body, and you're just going to have to help your kidneys and your eliminative channels to let go of that waste, so that inflammation and that swelling can come down, and so that's why I've seen this happen from
Mm-hmm.
time to time, is talking with several people, because those are definitely common these days. You have people that they'll do that, and I know it with even my own family and people that come in my parents' health food store, even for your joints, like we're talking about today. People get a lot of relief sometimes going through the chiropractor and the massage therapist and all those things. But it's really to talk about it, it's really just sometimes a band-aid for for people. It's just something that they have to keep going back, like every week or every so many
Mm-hmm.
weeks to get a readjustment or another massage, when you can still use that as a great tool, but you need to get to the root cause. You need to find what's causing that inflammation, causing that pain, causing that discomfort. And if you do that, that will make it where you'll feel like you don't need the adjustments or you don't need the massages as often. That's kind of the way I
Mm-hmm.
say it. But yeah, y'all,
Well, I
I'll go
do
ahead.
still go. Yeah, I go. Like I said, I go back, and it's just because I haven't gotten to the root of the problem. But I am a control freak, and that's why I did like when it comes to all this kind of stuff, because I truly do believe in everything you just said. And so she's very specifically led to do certain areas of me, and it did take me 3 years to even get to the point where I am now with them. But I know I need to sit down and really figure out what the heck is going on back there. And I probably do know it already, but we'll get to it. But yes, definitely all those cautions out there. And don't let people hurt you. I've never experienced anything like that. And I would be a very big advocate on, we're going to start very slow, and of course make sure all your areas are open for elimination after that too, and drink plenty of water after. um, Toni, I didn't know if you wanted to follow up on, they put their question back out there again, I guess the exact wording of what they're looking to answer. I didn't know if you saw that or not, or if you wanted to touch on that
Yeah,
again.
I did see that. I did, he wants to know if we know of any cases, testimonies of this kind of problem, like pinched nerve, only one leg fatigue, or is less common to see healing in this kind of cases. And then my legs, especially the one that has the tingling, has so many contractures, very tense spots. There's definitely something going on there. And
It,
but it is
it
like,
sounds
I'm
I,
sorry?
I was just going to say, it sounds like they're having spasming. That's what I think the contractures means. They may be having, because that's sometimes what comes with pinched nerves and nerve pain is they'll have some spasms, kind of like restless leg, but it's the spasm in the muscles or the joints or the tendons, you know what I mean? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would have a lot of questions. I know I have and always in one leg. If I do not drink enough water, then at night I will have cramps, cramps in my leg, and that may not be the same. But that is one thing that is easily overlooked is the amount of water that we need that you need to drink. And sometimes when I hear about somebody who has been years on all fruit and herbs, and then I learn that they don't drink water. I'm not going to say that is the case in the this now with this person. So I have a cat who is going out of his mind right now. She's a bird. Oh God. It is so it I usually close the door, but he was already in my office, and I have a big office, so I couldn't catch him. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But it would actually be interesting to see your eyes in and to see yeah, he says now, I mean hard spots and sore spots. You have to go to the root cause. It is so hard for any of us to say what exactly is going on. Do people heal? Yes, people do heal. And we have the testimonials, we have the experience. I have my own experiences, and that you do, Sarah does. But we are all at a different level of our health. There is a different background, bit different trauma, different things that we did or did not do what we were supposed to do. So to be able, oh, he said, drink 3 liters of distilled water. Great, absolutely great. And but to dive deeper in it, we would need to work with you one on one and go over everything. It is hard to do that here with you in a chat and we responding to it. But
Well,
yeah, it
Tony.
would be very interesting to see the eyes.
Yeah, Tony, he mentioned, or she did, he or she, they mentioned above, they said somewhere, let's see, they said, yes, I've been working with detox specialist.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what they've been telling him, but or her. But or they just replied, my main issue is my iris is nerve rings. Oh, well, that's definitely showing your nervous system, and your stress, your levels of stress you have. And then remember, the water is important as a solvent. It's helping to break up and to dilute down the acid waste in the body, but just don't overdo it. Like, don't drink too much water, especially if you're eating lots of fruits, because then you'll go the opposite direction. You could cause some edema and swelling that way too. So kind of try to find the middle ground. Drink plenty of water as needed to help dilute down the acid waste in the body, and it will help the body with small amounts of hydration. But the main hydration comes from the fruits and the vegetables. So that's where we're getting most of it. But the water is important because it helps dilute down the acid waste. The only time where people have been able to drink way less amounts of water and get most of their hydration and their water needs from the fruits and vegetables is after years and years of hard work to help their body get to a very alkaline state, and they've cleaned up their body so much that they drink lots of juices daily. They just pretty much get lots of fluids from their fruits and their vegetables, and then they're able to meet all their body's needs, and that's why they don't have to really drink much water outside of that. But when you're not there yet, or you're still transitioning, and you haven't been doing this for several years, and you haven't had a lot of progress, even if you have been doing it for several years, then it's just going to be something that's still going to take some time to work on. So yeah, that's what I would say about that. But yeah, we would just have to know many more things. But it sounds like also my question would be, did you have any kind of accidents or any kind of traumas in those areas, that caused it to have a pinched nerve, or to cause the muscles to spasm or to lock up? I think that's what he was talking about, or that she was talking about, is that the muscles are contracting because they're kind of like the spasming or contracting, kind of like how you get a Charlie horse, and it'll just stay locked up for periods of time. I think that's what happens too when people have like a pinched nerve, or they have like their muscles and their tendons and their joints are like giving them problems. They'll feel like it's kind of, and I think that's all due to trauma, acidosis, inflammation. All those things are kind of connected, and people will go back and forth with those different symptoms in those areas.
Yeah, and if the kidneys are filtering, is the lymph
That too. Lots of
moving?
stuff.
That can even be a problem.
Yeah.
I've had I slipped once on wet concrete, and I bruised a bone. I was bedridden for 2 months
Yeah. Just
before
from a
that healed.
bruise. Just
Yeah,
from a bruise.
yeah,
Yeah.
bone bruise. That
Yeah.
takes a long time to heal, and I have sore spots on my legs, and that is because of the trauma. So okay, no trauma or accident.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
was I was going to mention one thing that I would recommend, and I'm glad that I thought of this now. I just wish I had have thought about it sooner to mention to everyone earlier in the call. It's just sometimes you know how it goes. We don't always think about all these things up front, and I need to, I guess, get better about making myself a list of notes and stuff. But one of the herbs that I wanted to mention that Dr. Morse used to have, and I bet Tony will remember this, and anybody that's a long-time Dr. Morse follower will remember this, is that Dr. Morse used to have comfrey in his Heal All tea. And I think that was before they had the regulations, and maybe they had to stop them from putting it in there because, the FDA doesn't like that herb at all. And they definitely don't like people using it internally, like in a tea, because you do have to be careful. That's why he had it at the very bottom of the ingredient list, because you don't want to do too much internally. It's more of a wonderful herb to use externally, but comfrey is amazing for the bones and the tendons, and even the skin, because that's why they call it the bone knit or bone mender, and so that's something that people use topically, especially to help the bones and the nerves and the joints and all those things to improve. I've heard a story recently of a little boy. He worked or he was a family member of the people that owned a farm that grew herbs, and they're called Kauai on Hawaiian Island, called Kauai Pharmacy, but it was spelled with a farm, and they grew comfrey, and they dug up the root. And they made a poultice with that fresh, organic, wildcrafted, grown, herb, the root, and they put it around his wrist when he broke his wrist. And just a matter of I think it was a few months or a few weeks, I can't remember the time frame, they said it healed without any kind of cast or surgery or anything, because of the herb, because it's called bone knit. And so there's lots of great things you can do out there. You just have to find access to it, and you have to use your own guidance by doing lots of research into it. Because if you read a lot of the old timey information out there, they say that comfrey can be beneficial internally. But I'm telling people to take that on as your responsibility and your judgment, because I'm not giving advice on what people to do, because that's one of those things that is kind of in the gray area, so that, and Dr. Morse has very many, you can probably find very many or several videos where he talked about that, where he's talked about that comfrey is an amazing herb. And I don't know why anyone would say it's, bad or toxic. He said several great things on it before over the years. So go
Yeah.
check out his information on his website. But I thought that was something I wanted to add, Toni, that would be good for our
Yeah,
conversation, because
very true,
I
very
think that's a
true.
good herb because you
Yeah,
see it in a lot of your joint formulas sometimes, especially the topical salves. Like we have
yeah,
a real
yeah,
good one at the store from Dr. Christopher. He
yep.
he he made a lot of great formulas, and it's called the Comfrey salve, and
Yeah, I
it's
have
really,
it.
that's just great, Yeah.
Yeah, I did see, is asking now, so you don't know any cases of healing a case of this. The thing is, we cannot compare what you are going through, what somebody else has. We still don't have enough information. I understand the hard spot, the sore spots, the tingling, but you also mentioned that it happens when you stand for a long time, and it that already, when it happens, then it means it is too long. It's not something that your body can or want to handle. And I always have with testimonials. I know testimonials give people hope, but you are not the same, and that goes for everybody. It's not personal. You're not the same as another person. They have different backgrounds, different time of well, the body's health is at a different level, so we can absolutely not compare one person to the other. I can tell people that I have clients who actually healed from cancer, but did they heal because they did exactly the same thing as what you were doing, or would you heal if you do what they were doing? Their lifestyle is different, their attitude, how they stand in life, everything is different. So I always, with testimonials, and I did set up actually a website for testimonials, for the fruitarians and Dr. Morse and other related diets, to hear the testimonials, because it is often what people need to hear, that it can happen. But for me personally, I realize that it's actually impossible to put a lot of value in it, because we are all at that different level. And it's like the way, say that Dr. Morse's protocol has to make sense for you, and you need to understand why you got to the health level that you are in, and what can change. If you say you are, for now, this is directed to you. If you say you are standing too long and then it happens, then okay, you're standing too long. And sometimes we want to do more than the body can handle. And I think we all experience that. And sometimes you just need to take a step back. And I do believe everything happens for a reason. And we may not like it, we may not understand it, but it is an indication that you need to change something. And it's not about, taking something that can change it. It is just look at, what do you need to change for yourself, in for this not to happen. And can it heal? I've had a pinched nerve from an herniated disc, and all of a sudden, yeah, this the word is kind of silly and it makes you laugh. All of a sudden, I had a flap foot. That's what they call it in the Netherlands, where I was diagnosed in. And it meant that I had one nerve that only had 50%, 5% function. So when I walked, you could hear my left foot. Now, this was a pinched nerve in the back, had nothing to do with my leg or my foot. And they told me then it can take up to so many years, I forgot what it was, 3 or 5 years, for it to heal. And if it has not healed by then it won't. And I was like, okay, didn't worry about it. And it stayed for a while. You could hear me walk. And when I got this is way back. That was in the 90s somewhere. And when I got arthritis really bad, you could hear it again. So that nerve was never fully healed. But when I am on 100% fruit and the herbs, you cannot hear it. So then I know that things are going better. But this can be a testimonial, but it doesn't help you specifically. There is, if it is not that you're overdoing what you are doing, then we have to look at other options, what exactly is going on. And yes, we have that health questionnaire. And if you want to use that for yourself, you don't even have to talk to any of us. And maybe with your other Dr. Morse trained health coach, you've already been through that. But look at all these questions, fill it out. It's like a self-assessment form. You can find the one that I put online is healthquestionnaire.online, and see where something stands out for you, what happens.
Yeah, and Toni, I'd like to comment to what you were saying before we close it out today, because I think we're getting into the the climax of the conversation, today, especially with this individual interacting with us, because she even, or he or she, they even mentioned, I'm very young, I'm 25, and I want to do normal things, like I don't have my legs tired or normal activities to go to. Yeah, and I understand that when I read those words, the first feelings I feel is that you're kind of, you're frustrated with it. You feel like I have my youth, and I want to be able to do things that I enjoy to do, but I'm in pain and discomfort, and I feel for you. I really do, and I know that's frustrating as well. But sometimes just trust that, and have faith that things will get better. Don't be, because, like, think about it. Look at Toni as an inspiration. Is that, if she had have, given up and everything when she was younger, when they told her what they did, she, may have not enjoyed as much of her life as she has, just because you can let those things limit you if you let the mind, because remember, it's not so much what happens to us in life, it's how we respond to what happens to us, and so just keep that in mind. And the big thing that I wanted to comment to about what Toni was saying about testimonials is that let a testimonial be positive to you. Let it inspire you and motivate you to say to yourself, wow, that's very amazing and very interesting of what can be accomplished for that individual. Now let me see what I can accomplish with my personal, physical capabilities. Because everything is different, like Toni was mentioning. Your lifestyle, your genetics, the way you think, the way you feel, the level of trauma, your genealogy and your heritage, like what, let's see, what I can't think, what culture you're from, that has a lot to do with it too, because of different, cultures of different people that live in different areas, because again, that has a little bit differences with our genetics and differences of our bodies and stuff, so there's so many variables that the one thing that it makes me sad that I see with testimonials is that people will let the ego and the young child within get frustrated because they'll say, well, if they achieved that and they did it and they had results so quickly, why am I not getting the same results? That's not fair. You know, they'll get kind of impatient and they'll get frustrated and they'll get kind of disappointed and they'll lose hope and they'll lose faith that this system will help them, you know, because they're having to struggle with it way longer, or and it's they're not getting the results they would like to see, you know, and so don't let the testimonials of others make you feel, you know, bad, you know, because you're not getting the same exact results they are, because everyone's journey is a little bit different, and it should be on purpose, because all of us are unique individuals. None of us are the same. Not even identical twins are the same. They may have more in common than you know, other people that we have in our lives and other people in the world, but we're still all very unique. You know, just like there's no two snowflakes, there's no two fingerprints the same, you know. And so that's what I mean by don't try to compare yourself too much to others, because your experience may be different for different reasons. Your journey may be different for different reasons on purpose. So what I go back to, because I have such strong faith in God's divine plan and divine timing for things, that I try to just let go of that worry and that fear and that strong desire that things must go a certain way or I'm not going to be happy. You know, I try to let that go and just say, live today in the now, and just appreciate and have gratitude for what you have now, you know, and just try to make the best of it, you know. And I'm not saying settle either. Don't just give up and settle and say, oh, well, there's nothing I can do for it. I've already tried. I'm just going to do whatever I want to now. No, I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying, just don't let the testimonials make you feel like you're frustrated and you want to give up because you're not getting the results that that other person got, because your life has to go the way theirs did, or you're not going to be happy. You know, I'm trying not to say, to get you to say that, because that's kind of, you know, expecting that you can have the same outcomes of life as that individual, when what if God has better plans for you than what even that individual has had to go through? But you just have to go through a little bit more challenges before you can get there. You know, we never know what the future holds. We never know about these things. So we have to just trust that everything's going to happen the way it needs to. Maybe not always the way we want it to, but the way it needs to. You know, that's what I keep trying to remind myself about, you know. But yeah, I'll pass it back over to you, Toni, and we can do whatever we need to close her up or whatever you want to do, you know. Yeah.
I was going to chime in real
Oh
quick,
yeah,
Toni, and
that's
say
Sarah. Yeah, go ahead.
that, I mean, all of our health experiences lead us to where we are today.
Yeah.
And most of us are teachers today or interested in all of this stuff because of our health journey that we've gone through. So just like Dad was just saying, we have no idea what the future holds. But at the same time, what I also said in the chat too, if your detox specialist is not answering the questions you need to have answered and you're not seeing improvements in them, you know, maybe sit down and have another conversation with them and see what all you need to be doing on how you can treat it all holistically together. And then, of course, if not, you can always make an appointment with Toni or Thad. I'm not sure. Do you see people?
I do. I
Okay.
haven't been seeing as many people in the last year, as a couple of years, as I have before, just because I've had a lot of things going on.
Right.
But yeah, I do still see people from time to time.
Okay. And then if not, I mean, you want somebody closer to you because we're not even sure where you are. You can always get on greatgate.com and try to find somebody close to you. But if you're having issues and stuff, anyone, not even just specifically this person, you should definitely be working closely with one of the specialists, so that way they can help monitor you and check in with you. And you should definitely be checking in with them. I mean, quite often, minimally at least once a month, check in and check your status of what's going on. But definitely keep on it, and you know, you'll somehow it'll all work out in one way or another. But yeah, thank you for this show. I think it's been an amazing show, and I'll pass it back to Toni.
Yeah, unfortunately, on Grapegate, I see a lot of people who went different directions than what we were taught by Dr. Morse. So be aware of that. You can read, I have all the information on how you can reach it in the description or the show notes. And I do offer a short 15 to what is it, 25, 30 minutes free introduction where we can talk. And you can find that, well, the link is actually in that description too. Or you can reach it on Toni Weel, ToniWeel.com. You can see that and set up a short chat with me, and we can go over a few things. It's not meant for a consultation. It's just, to find out a little bit more for you about me and for me about you. And that is an offer that is open to anyone. So, but it's not a consultation. I want to make that clear. I want to thank everyone for chiming in and for Mapu. I sure hope I didn't mess up your name. For asking your questions, because they are important, and you are important to us to be able to help you. And this may, a chat like this about the joints and the bones and the nerves may not be, where you can get all your answers. So I hope to hear from you. And I have not thought about a topic for next week, but something will come up that and Sarah, or if you guys have an idea what we can talk about. And you mentioned what we actually didn't mention is how do we heal? And I think if you listen to our other podcast, it always goes back to diet. And yeah, it's fruit. Dr. Morse would say with any issue, you come to him and he smiles and he said, fruit, berries, melons. Like, okay, it's so simple. It's not easy to do, but it is actually simple. And love to you all. Love for everyone being here. Until the next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Toni.
Thank you, Toni and Thad.
And thank you, Sarah.